Bienvenido a todos. Today I'm going to attempt to crochet in Spanish. So in the past you may have seen a video on my channel where I chose a crochet pattern from a Spanish crochet book and I settled on Javier Cabra. Today is the day we're going to start making him. So Javier is made in several parts. They have different materials. It wants me to use a hilo de algodón mediano, which is like a worsted cotton yarn. I can't promise I'm going to stick with cotton yarn. I mean, this is cotton right here. This is not. It wants it in marrón, crudo, gris grafito, amarillo, negro, y rosa pastel. So that's brown, tan. I'm guessing it's graphite gray, which I'm guessing is this part right here, which seems strange because it looks blue to me. And I don't see blue in here. Because they also have negro, which is black, amarillo, which is yellow, rosa pastel pink. Then aguja de crochet de 2.75 millimetros, which this will be close enough. It's not exact. And then, provided it doesn't escape from me here. There you go. And then ojos plásticos de seguridad de 10 milímetros. And then it says filón siliconado. I don't know what the filón siliconado is. Oh, that's probably the stuffing. That's probably the stuffing to fill the goat. Anyway, I have a set of safety eyes to the right color. They may be a bit big on him. That's okay. And what's also nice about this pattern is it says conocimientos necesarios, and then it lists a bunch of techniques. So if I come across a technique I'm not sure what to do, the book tells me where it's at, which is great. So interestingly enough, it wants me to start with the cachetes, which is the little cheeks. It just wants me to make 2. But in all honesty, when it comes to making stuffed animals like this, I don't like to start with the smallest thing. I like to start with the biggest things. That way when I do a bunch of smaller things, I feel like I'm making more progress. Instead of just having 2 small things, it's like, well, I got the cheeks. Where's the body to put them on, you know? The next thing is the whole chico. It says con crudo. So once it starts with a tejen un hilo de 6 parts. Okay. And as I'm reading through, it looks like this is, the whole chico is like this part, the muzzle, snout part of the goat. Because it says, corten dejando un hebra larga para coser, con negro borde en la nariz y la boca. En la nariz y la boca. That I know. And then the next part is like, cabeza y cuerpo. So that's head and body. That's the biggest part. So I will start with the whole chico just because I know it's going to have to get attached to the body. So let's get a stitch marker here. So, don't escape from me, yarn. There we go. So, tejen un hilo de 6. So I'm guessing that's 6 stitches. So it's just saying a ring. This would be the magic ring in English. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. I've had this yarn for a while. I don't know how long I've had this yarn, but it's been a while. All right. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice thing about the ring, you just give it a pull And the stitches all come close together. Boom. Then we're going to put the stitch marker on the last stitch. And I got myself a handy dandy row counter. So if you hear that sound, that's what that is. I ended up buying some more recently because when I've been realizing I'm working on so many projects that need to be kept track of at the same time that 3 wasn't enough anymore. And it would be nice if I was the type of person who could just like work at one project at a time and just go all the way through. But that's not how my mind works. My mind's like doing 6 projects at once. That's just how it does. That's why there's so many part 1s on this channel without too many part 2s to follow, or like more than a part 2. It's going to change. I'm going to be adding more, but that's just how my mind works. I like working on like 6 different things at one time. And how do I decide what to work on? I work on whatever catches my fancy at the time. Okay. And the washer's done, but it means the dryer is not. Okay. I'm doing laundry tonight. So for the second row, it says un hombre en cada uno de los 6 en pie. So it basically wants me to increase one. It wants me to increase inside each stitch of the next round. So that's what we're going to do. Just increase the 6. There you go. There we go. We have our second row. And now it wants me, it says, uno empe, uno repeten 6 veces. And it says 18 underneath. So what I found out very early on before I was even into amigurumi was that if you increase every single stitch in every single row, you're not going to get a circle. It's going to increase too fast and you get this whole wavy thing, which can be a cool effect. But if you're just looking for a circle, you actually have to put in buffer stitches for where you just do the stitch and then let it increase gradually, and then you get the circle that you want. I think I got rid of that piece. So now we're just going to do the 1. Then we're going to increase. I remember distinctly it was this like blue and white yarn that I did it with. I don't think I have any more of that yarn, but that yarn also lasted a while. Oh, something shifted over there. I got a lot of crafting material that you're probably going to end up seeing in a later video, and it's taking up a lot of space right now. I have to organize it so it's a little bit more manageable. There you go. Third row. Okay. Also, this right here, what you're seeing me do with the hook, so it's 2 and 1, okay. What you're seeing me do there with the hook is precisely why, or not the stitch marker, is precisely why I love open-ended stitch markers for crochet. Because with knitting, you can have a round hole, oh, not a round hole, you can have a completely closed off one and the stitch marker stays on the needle. So you can go back and forth and know that it's not going to be permanently attached to your knitting. But with crochet, you attach the stitch marker to the yarn because you see I am not keeping more than like 1 stitch on the hook at any one time. So this way, I'm able to move it very easily, even though it is more of an effort to move a stitch marker with crochet than it is with knitting. There we go. So far, so good. Oop. The yarn is coming unwound on me a little bit. Ah. So for the single siete vueltas, it just wants me to do straight single crochet. All right. So I'm just going to quickly finish those off and I'll come right back. All right, I just completed those steps. So now for the vuelta ocho, it says make 5 stitches, increase once, repeat 4 times, repeten 4 veces, or 4 veces. And since the number in the brackets is 28, which is 28, and the row before is 24, so 24, I assume is 4 times total. So we're going to do it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Came loose. There we go. 5. Now increase. Aumentar. Y 8 veces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, y aumentar. I don't know if this thing happens in other languages, but sometimes, like when you're camping, you have these cheers, and you often start like, everyone on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. So a funny cheer that we would do sometimes would be 4. So it's like, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was one time before the pandemic times, very shortly before pandemic times, when at my work they used to have everyone like meet together at what they called stand up before, so they could get announcements. And they wanted to do a cheer, and it's like, oh, we can do like the department name or whatnot, and unless you have any suggestions. And I said, how about 4? And they just stared at me like, you mean like the number 4? And I was like, yeah. It's like, all right, we'll do it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. They got rid of stand-up once COVID really got in, because the place they had us gather was less than 6 feet apart. Would have had us be less than 6 feet apart, and well, social distancing was king at that time. So, all right. In the 9th row, they want us to just do 1 stitch in each one. So they didn't want to like crowd over 100 people into the same spot. And then, I mean, the pandemic isn't completely over. It's closer to being over than it was. To be honest, I don't think it's ever going to completely go away. I think this is just a thing we're going to have to live with now. But as the pandemic started slowing down, my work has tried like bringing back measures, and they tried to bring back the stand-ups. But the problem with that is there is a huge rate of turnover at my work, simply because it's a warehouse job, and that's just how warehouse jobs are. And the majority of the people started after COVID times, so they don't remember the stand-up. In fact, for me, I'm one of the longest lasting people there now in where I'm at. And I am by no means the longest lasting, but the majority of people have started after I did. So they don't remember this, and so they're not going to start like wasting 5 minutes standing in a certain spot when they're used to just going straight to their station. So yeah, I think work has started accepting, oh, we got rid of this, we can't bring it back. The culture just simply doesn't accept it anymore. Also, the place where we used to have our stand-ups has since been taken over by another function. So there's really no good place to gather those people near the department anymore. We still get our information, but we just get it over the microphone. That's just how it is now. They're experiencing the same thing with the cell phones. It used to be a fireable offense to have your cell phone in the building, but with the pandemic, people were allowed to start bringing their cell phones in so they could keep in contact with their family. All right. So it says, corten dejar un hebra larga para coser. So it wants me to have a long thing to sew. And then I just finish this off. But then with like the huge turnover, most people started after cell phones were allowed in. So to be told no cell phones in allowed at all, like people were like, what? We're not doing this. And it's like, yeah, you got a Pandora's box, buddy. You're not going to get that, you're not going to get that back in. It would be helpful if they didn't, because people get distracted by their cell phones and it can get annoying. But it's like, yeah. You let that in, you're not going to get that back. So, we have the hocico. There you go. And we'll be ready to sew that on. Now we can start with the cabeza. La cabeza. So, it says, Convención con marrón. There you go. Ooh, string wanted to go everywhere here. So now it wants me to cambiar color al inicio de vuelta. Yeah, mitad de vuelta. It wants me to look at page 35, which honestly I probably should. Cambio de color. Usen esta técnica cuando quieren cambiar de color o par de otra hebra de hilo porque se quedaron sin que estaban usando. So this is when you change the color of the yarn. Trabajen con la hebra de color previo hasta tener dos lazos del último punto en la aguila. Usen el nuevo color o hilo para completar el punto, sacando la nueva hebra por los dos lazados en el agua. Okay. Oh, cool. So what this is saying here is when I'm changing the color of the stitch, I don't complete the stitch with the previous yarn. I change the color in the middle of the stitch. So that way it's as smooth a transition as possible. Nota, es importante tener en cuenta que el punto de cambio color quedará del color anterior. Así que haciendo fotos de diferentes colores, no se olviden de hacer el cambio en el punto de... Yeah, when you change the color, don't forget to change it in the last stitch of the previous color. Because otherwise, like, when you pull it through, the loop from that stitch becomes the top of the next stitch. It doesn't explicitly say this, but it becomes the top of the next stitch. And so if you don't change it in the middle of the stitch, you, what's it called? Like if you don't change it in the middle of the stitch, the previous color is going to show up on the bottom of the stitch, and then you kind of have like a little spiky thing, and you don't necessarily want that. So, got to remember that. I tend to be pretty good at remembering some things better than others. So, tejan un hilo de 60. Uno. Dos. Oh, I gotta reset my stitch marker. There we go. We on a new section. Tres. Cuatro. Cinco. Seis. Seis tends to be like the preferred amount of stitches for like a magic ring. Like most of the time when you like read a pattern for these things, it says like start with 6 stitches, start with 6 stitches. When it says like start with 10 stitches, it's like, whoa, different. Or like start with 4 stitches. Oh, you want it to be small, don't you? There we go. And we put the stitch marker there. Okay, boom. All right, then it's the same as before. We increase in every stitch. I don't know if you can tell, but this was the vest that I made for Mom. This color yarn that I'm using now. I had some left over. And it's such a rich color. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm not typically a fan of brown, but I love this brown. Okay. That's the second one. All right, then uno en pie, uno Repiten 6 veces. And then there's a little note under this one that says, a partir de siguiente volta, tejan alternado colores marrón crudo. El color con el que se trabaja se indica antes de entre paréntesis. So it's basically saying I'm going to be starting with the fourth row, the fourth round, I'm going to be alternating colors, and the color that I do it with changes, is like before the directions. Okay. But for the third one, I do 1, then I increase. All right. All right. Es las tres vueltas. So maroon. So here it looks like okay. So here it looks like what's it called? Change the color twice. I'm doing the same row as I did before, where I do 2 stitches, then I increase 1. But in the middle of it, we're adding this boy here. So, repiten 2 veces. In maroon, it's 2 en pie. And aumentar. And 2 en pie. Then we're going to do 1 aumentar like normal, but then the other aumentar we leave like that. This is where we introduce this guy. Ha! You see. Con crudo, we have this part twice. Wait. Did I? No, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay. 2, then I aumentar. And then I do that twice. This is single stitches again. But I don't complete it this time around because I go back to this yarn. Just gonna have that flat and boom. Because it wants me to go back to the maroon where I aumentar. And then I just continue the pattern as it was. Okay. All right. We now have more yarn strings to keep track of, and just hope that it doesn't get tangled. All right. So 5 vueltas. So it's tres MP, and what is MP short for? You got the abbreviations here somewhere, right? Well, it's not towards the end, it's towards the beginning. Layer. Medio punto. Medio punto. That is single crochet. Which means I've been doing the right thing all along. Yay me. It's like, oh yeah, I just automatically did single crochet because that's how these stuffed animals tend to go, you know? And it's like, it's good to understand. I just understood the pattern. It's okay. So now I'm going to do just medio puntos. Aumenta. Wants me to repeat in 2 veces, which is good because it kind of already lines up with the color that's already there. So three, and we don't complete this one. Oop. Because we go back to the yarn for this. So. Aha. Uno, dos, tres. Aumenta. Then dos. Doesn't want me to complete the next one though. Oh. There you go. I guess the part here is making sure the tension of the yarn inside isn't too much, so that way we don't have the look. I know that was totally an attractive face for me to be making just now. Okay. And then we just continue. Like, you know how, like, when you're, like, with a little kid, like, baby toddler age, or maybe even, like, up to, like, 4 or 5 years old, every so often, like, adults will just turn to a little kid and they'll make a face and the little kid will make it back. My family did this face a lot. was like, oh yeah. I just learned more like. I don't really remember any other face. That was the one they would default to. Okay. So face one. Alright. So it looks like the next several rounds of this pattern is just continuing this. So I think I got it started. I'm going to pop back in a little bit and then you can see my progress. Alright, so I've made some significant progress on La Cabeza. This is La Cabeza so far. And, you know, that's not bad. I mean, my head's a little bit flatter than it's expected in the picture. But the two instructions that I skipped, turns out I'm going to have to do them now. Because after the 25th round, it says, Cosen el hocico entre las vueltas 17 y 25. Coloquen los ojos de seguridad entre las vueltas 18 y 19. A 3 medio puntos del hocico. Cosen las cachetes bajos los ojos. So I skipped making the cheeks because I wanted to do something big first, but this is telling me, no, you need to sew on the cheeks now. Which, granted, it's easier to sew stuff while you can still reach the inside of it and like knot it up that way, rather than just waiting toward the end and kind of just like putting in a knot and hoping that it doesn't show. Also, with the security eyes, I mean, they had to go in now. So, we are now going to take a quick break from La Cabeza to actually make los cachetes. Yeah. I'm actually really appreciating, like, even though the yarns are like clearly different thicknesses and it kind of stands out, I'm appreciating like the nice thing. Now the yarn that they've chosen for the things, like they were going for a pastel pink, rosa pastel. Personally, I'm gonna go more for this mauve color because, I mean, look at that. Really goes with the yarn. So, Cachetes only has una vuelta. So, and we hagan dos con rosa pastel. So we make two of these. Because, you know, when you got one, it's not just, it's not rosy cheeks. It's a birthmark. I have a birthmark on my left arm. It's not really visible anymore. I don't know if you can see it. It's like right there. The skin's a different texture. That's the only way you can tell. But when I was younger, it was a bright, vivid red. So much so that my second grade teacher called me twice during story time to ask me, hey, what's that mark on your arm? And the second time she's like, oh wait, I asked you this before. It's a birthmark. It's like, yep. I've never really hated my birthmark, honestly. Probably because, like, it's attention was never really brought to it except for that. Yeah, honestly, when this is done, it'll probably be the size of my birthmark. I hated acne so much more. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It wants me to make 8. And then leave a long thread for sewing. And then I gotta sew on the mouth, which I got a nice picture of Javier here. So it doesn't tell me exactly how to sew, but I can play it by ear. It's all good. No, this is smaller than my birthmark. It's okay. We're gonna put this here. Oop. Oh. I'm gonna pull it through the first stitch right over here. And just pull it through. Boom. There you go. And then I'm going to weave in the ends of this here because I don't want to have to worry about it. There we go. Little rosy cheek. So now we make a second one because symmetry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. I love like how tightly these get pulled too. Yeah, we're gonna cut off the long thread for sewing. Pull this through. Personally, when it comes to like making stuffed animals, I like to get all the sewing done at once. I don't like having to go back and forth. Lots of patterns like to go back and forth, like sew this, make this, sew this, make this. It's like, no, I'm just gonna make all the little pieces and have all the dismembered little pieces hang around me, and then we're gonna bring down the stuffing all at once. Probably because I make a lot of my stuffed animals in front of the television, but I store the stuffing up here. And I do try to coordinate bringing down the stuffing at a time when mom is not watching, so I don't set off mom's breathing problems. Because, you know, I don't really want to hurt other people while I'm crafting. That part is not fun, doing that knowingly, you know. You know, I saw the weirdest product at work the other day. So it was a filter for catching secondhand smoke. So it's basically like if you smoke, you put like the end of the smoking apparatus in this filter and it filters out the smoke so other people don't experience your smoke. Which is good for when you're okay hurting yourself, but not okay hurting other people. Which, I guess there are lots of people like that. It's a lot easier to, like, not want to hurt other people than it can be to not want to hurt yourself. Because it's like, oh, it's just me. And it's not really the healthiest mindset to be in, honestly. But yeah, that just struck me as, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this product exists. All right, so I guess since this is inside, I can just make a big knot. There we go. I did end up like having to whip out my Spanish at work recently too. Like as you've probably heard me mention before, my coworkers, some of them only speak Spanish, so I hope that doesn't. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Is this like multiple? I can't tell. I can't tell if that's just one string or multiple strings. We're gonna guess. Okay. Also gonna hope that's towards the bottom. Well, ish. Okay. Yeah, so I had to pack something at work and not all the products were there. So that meant I had to go searching for it. And the person on the other side who was sorting the packages only spoke Spanish. Or was more comfortable with Spanish, is what we'll say. She may have understood some English. But often if I interact with people who I don't know what their language is preferred, I'll just start with English or Espanol. And then whatever language they say is the language we continue the conversation in. But I had lost a bra insert. It's like, I don't know the Spanish word for this. And so it kind of evolved into like it's like do you have any overages? And she was like, no. And it's like, I'm missing a bra insert. And like, wait a moment. It's just my mom checking to see I was alive. Okay. So it was like, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the bra insert. So it's like, I'm looking for bra insert. It's like, I'm trying to struggle to find out in Spanish. It's like, en inglés se dice bra insert, pero es la cosa que pone dentro de este. And I'm like doing charades, pulling my bra strap. It's like, and she's kind of like laughing, and she kind of got the sense that she's like, no, I don't see it. And then afterwards I realized I don't think I got my point across. Like the word that she ended up saying, I ended up like asking someone else who I know spoke both. It's like, what word did she end up telling me? It's like, no, she told you the word for bra. She didn't quite get the inserts. And I kind of explained what happened. It's like, yeah, I mean, you got the point across. I think it ended up being like more of a slang word for bra too. I think, or at the very least, maybe it was like put inside. It's like, she ended up saying ponga. Yeah. It was I mean, these things are experiences, you know, like you can spend a lot of time learning words at school in like a class, but what I find with taking a class in what's it called? What I find with taking a class in a language as compared to actually like going to that location is that when you're taking a class in another language, like at least for an English speaker, the understanding is that you all understand English. And it's like, well, why the hell don't we just speak to each other in English? And as a result, it can be very, very difficult to practice Spanish. While if you go to another country where that is not the intention, people are much more willing to practice with you. Although, as you can imagine, like my genetics, like nationally, I am a United States citizen, but my genetics are like, you're from Ireland, most of it. So I'm going to get some stuffing real quick. The big 10-pound box. Okay. But with the Irish genetics. It's like, yeah, you're an English speaker. Like, we know you speak English. From both the way that you dress like you're an ugly American, and then, well, I try not to look like an ugly American. I try to look somewhat put together. But it's like, yeah, you dress like an American and you look like an Irish person. You speak English. It's like, okay. It's like your grasp is not good enough. Like, I know enough English to kind of help you out. It's like, that was one of my big troubles when I was studying abroad. It's like, I start speaking English and then the Italian person, like, I'd start speaking Italian and the Italian person would start speaking to me in English. And it's like, I'm trying to learn Italian, people. But yeah. So you can see there's like this gap here. I guess this was just to save the yarn, but now we're going to just sew this on. Oh yeah, before I do, you can see like I didn't really cut it. I just went back and forth inside. Let's try to get this on, and we just sew. And kind of hope I'm holding it in the right spot, because this is how these things always go. Okay. At this point, if I'm holding it off screen, I am sorry. It's sometimes a little bit easier just to not hold it quite so close to my face. Kind of like when you're scanning a barcode, you know? It's like, you try scanning a barcode, you hold it an inch from the barcode doesn't scan, but you hold it like 4 inches away from the barcode, and suddenly the barcode scans, and it's like, the barcode can actually focus now. Yeah, there's a lot of scanning barcodes in my job, so when I go to the store, I don't necessarily like doing the self-checkout because I'm not at work. Someone else is working. I'm just getting stuff. But then when the pandemic happened and like lots of stores, they only service a self-checkout, and it's like they just have the one person stand there and then just service the self-checkout, and it's like, oh, let me just figure it out then. And now sometimes I just do the self-checkout because it's faster. If there's like a line, it's like, yeah, okay, you win. This is how things are now. We have the self-checkout. I remember like it was Christmas Eve and I was like in the CVS, and the person's like, it'll go faster if you, like, there were 2 people ahead of me in line for the human cashier, and the person's like, it'll go faster if you just go for the self-checkout. And I was like, no, I'm okay waiting, but inside I was like, I'm on vacation. I'm not scanning barcode. I am off from work for 10 days. Which reminds me, I should probably buy a COVID test soon. I have plans that COVID could derail, and it's strange, like, back when I got COVID, it was back in, like, the beginning of the pandemic, pre-vaccine, like, really early on, and it was like, oh my god, am I going to die? Which is like, no, I'm a pretty healthy person. Honestly, for me, strep throat was worse. But, maybe I had it again and didn't realize it. Who knows? But now, like, people disappear for like a week and they come back and it's like, oh, I had COVID. It's like, this is different. It's not as much of the barrier as it used to be. Fortunately, because people are getting vaccinated, and they should be getting vaccinated. Like, I'm watching like a lot of these science fiction things where I just watched a Star Trek episode where a sickness happened. And they got over the sickness because the doctor made an inoculant, which is another word for vaccine. And like, they knew this back in the 1980s. At least they knew this back in the 1950s. When Jonas Salk discovered it, they knew back in the 1800s. That's how they solved smallpox. Largely. Like, I remember reading about how they were, like, healing smallpox, and it sounded disgusting and, like, creepy, but it worked. It's like, they got a healthy person who got, like, who developed the antibodies for smallpox, and they, like, sewed through their skin, like, through a boil on their skin, and they sewed through this skin of, like, an infected person or non-infected person, so it's kind of like the precursor to whatever Jonas Salk did. And we have Jonas Salk to thank for no longer having polio. Or at least polio no longer being as prevalent as it once was. There we go. We've almost got a face. It's looking kind of adorable here. There you go. It's like when I was like crocheting this earlier, like parts of me were doubting, like, are you sure about this instruction? Are you sure this instruction will give me the result that I want? And it's like, Becky, you need to trust the pattern. Trust the pattern that will tell you what you need to do. It's like, okay. All right, we will trust the pattern. Even though I don't like following instructions, this is what, if you follow the instructions in this case, it will help you. I may have some trust issues, just maybe. Okay. So now it wants me to put in the safety eyes, but I'm going to cut this string first so it's not quite as long and won't get in the way. Voila. There we go. So, it wants me... Now, this doesn't quite have the gap that the picture has for me to put the eyes in, so I'm just going to guess here. And kind of put the eyes in their own little spot. Where's the second one? Did I lose the second one? No. Oh, no. They were just stacked on top of each other. Okay. Got that too, and we just slide this on. There we go. The eyes are really big compared to the picture. But look at that. I also just got really big safety eyes in general. Then we just slide that on. There we go. We got an adorable little face. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before. I might have mentioned this back when I was choosing it, but you know what kills me about sheep and goats? So, like, I was raised Catholic, and like there's a lot of parables about how the sheep, like how sheep are good and goats are bad. But then, when you look back in the archaeological record, they can't tell the difference between sheep-goat. It's literally just sheep-goat because the only difference between them is the type of hair that they have, right? So sheep just happen to have like the nice woolly hair that you give for, what's it called? that you make yarn out of, and then goats just happen to have like the short coarse hair, but they're the same otherwise, and then we treat them like they're these two entirely different things, and it's like, why? Humans are strange. Humans are just very, very strange creatures. I did get a chance to like milk goats when I was younger. So one of my aunts and uncles used to raise goats for the Heifer Project, which is an organization which when you donate money, they send animals to developing countries so they can provide for themselves. They can make like milk and cheese and dairy and things like that. They'll usually only send females, so the poor males tend to be someone's Passover dinner. But it's like I got to milk some goats and it was pretty cool. It's just like literally like pulling the udders and just hearing it hit the can. I don't think we ever drank any of the milk straight from the goat. They might have even brought the goats to our house once, like some of the smaller goats. In fact, I'll insert some pictures of that now. There we go. We got one cheek on. Make it a little bit more cutesy. There you go. And then we pull and create some sort of knot. Okay. Should be enough. There we go. And then now we kind of do the other in the same way. Kind of place it kind of equal. There we go. Often I would use like, this is another reason why I like the stitch markers. I'm not using it here for this purpose right now. Oh, don't get tangled. There we go. But what I like about the open end stitch markers is that you can use them as safety pins too. So you can use them to hold the pieces of crochet together where you want them to. So you can crochet them in the right pattern. Or not the right pattern, but like the right location. So sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes I get like a cockeyed head on the body. There we go. There we go. It almost looks like it should be a bear. Well, because of the tan, I know it's a goat. But this could also be like a dog or a bear. Oh, I guess that yarn didn't go all the way through. Well, we're going to take advantage of that now. Make an obnoxious knot. There we go. I could be as messy as I want on the inside because no one's going to see it. No one's going to see what a hot mess Javier Cabra is on the inside. Although Javier Cabra is a very grounded individual on the outside. He's a gardener. He likes to explore the past, but also new things. Okay. Anyway, I think that's all of the Rosa Pastel, which in this case is the mauve we're going to need in this one. So I can go back to the cabeza, which is starting to have me decrease. So I think the neck is going to come soon. Yeah, so it's having me decrease. Relenen la cabeza. After the 29th round. Continúen con un patrón a rayas. I don't know what un patrón a rayas stands for. Maybe this explains los puntos. No corezo. El aumento de disminuciones, that's punto member rattan basket spike stitch. In spiral, podar, that's to sew. You see, there's an explanation that I'm not quite seeing. Let's see if in the leer un patron part it explains. No, it doesn't. Rematar. Cambio color. En lo mágico de espiral. Oh, no, that doesn't look the same. So there's like a basket spike stitch, which is a way to like carry the yarn over, but it's not what I'm seeing in this picture of Javier. Oh, punto. Wait, that's rea though, right? Un patrón a reas. Okay. So if what's happening here is what I think is what's happening, every other row it switches between the gray and the tan. When we get there. I don't think it's a special stitch. I think it's just a pad. You know what? I think un patrón a rayas is Spanish for a striped pattern, because if this was in English and you just said a striped pattern, any English speaker wouldn't need an explanation. Which is probably why it's just like casually mentioned here, because any Spanish person probably wouldn't need like the explanation for this pattern. It's probably pretty simple. And it looks like Javier is wearing a striped shirt. We're also with the problem here because I've been working Javier in a spiral thing because that's just how I work all things. But with a striped shirt, you don't want it to be in a spiral. You kind of want to finish the row and then do a new stitch. And then chain and then work from there. So that way you have it. I usually lose track when I do that. So I don't tend to do that. But yeah, it looks like I'm going to be decreasing more with the color. So when it comes to actually like starting that striped pattern, I'm going to be back. All right, so it's a new day, hence the outfit change. And I have gotten to just about finishing the row in which I am done with the head. So I think last time I was confused about Patrona Reyes, and literally if I had just read the next sentence down, it would have explained it to me. It says, continúen con un patrón a rayas, alternando una vuelta en gris gráfico con una vuelta en crudo. Which basically means alternate a row of gray with a row of tan. Now, when I was looking at the picture of the of Javier, I can kind of see how it looks gray now, but part of it looks blue to me. And quite honestly, I'd rather give him a blue shirt. So you can see these colors go together so nicely. So first it says Relinen. Wait, if I slow down, I can say this properly. Okay. Relenen la cabeza. So I assume that means stuff it, because if you look, it's a pretty small hole and it's about to get bigger for the body because like everyone has shoulders, or not everyone has shoulders, but this stuffed animal has shoulders. So it is easier to stuff it now, especially since later on, I think I'm going to be going straight into the legs. So I just hope I don't lose a stitch marker here. I didn't quite finish the row because I already know I'm going to be continuing spirals instead of like doing it in rounds, which means that spirals are going to be a little bit off kilter, unfortunately. But I also want to like mitigate part of the color change. So I'm waiting till I put on the blue in order to finish the rows, especially since we are done with the maroon. There you go. We're going to stuff the head. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of crocheting when there's stuffing in it, but when the pattern calls for it, the pattern calls for it. I also did notice that somewhere I made a mistake and added an extra stitch somewhere. Like there was one part where it just said like, do 20 media puntos, and then 12 medio puntos, and then 28 medio puntos, and then wanted me to decrease. and I wanted me to change it, so it was like 21 medio puntos, 10 medio puntos, 20, right? But which I didn't bother counting because it's like, oh, I know exactly what it wants me to do. It wants me to increase in one color in each direction and then change to the other color. Like, I knew what it wanted me to decrease, so it's like, I can avoid counting here. If I can avoid counting, that's very, very nice because I often lose track. I recently had to tell people at work that when they were sending me totes full of stuff to actually like attach everything, because that I literally had to count every item because I was slowly going insane. I didn't necessarily say that. I said it slowed me down considerably, which time is at a premium in that place. And I often phrase it as a friendly reminder because I am not in management and therefore cannot officially reprimand anybody. But I coach people all the time. It's my right as an ambassador. As someone who trains other people. It's like, if I notice something's wrong, it's like, hey, but you can do this better, right? But tactfully. People usually listen. Because I know what I'm talking about. There you go. That's pretty cute, right? All right. So at this point, I'm going to cut the brown. We'll stuff it in somewhere inside. We're just going to tie on the blue to the same spot so that way they're kind of similar. Oh. Maybe I cut it a little bit too short. Meh. Okay. We'll be coming back to the brown later on. Alright, so we're going to complete the row. Take out the stitch marker here. Put the knot in, okay. Then use the blue to finish it up. There we go. So now we are done with vuelta 10. No, not 10. Vuelta 29. Okay. So, vuelta 30. We increase all over again. So I just have to find where I did the stitch. I did the stitch on that one. Okay. So it's like, this is going to be a little bit harder to hold up. I hope you can like see what I'm doing. We increase, we don't decrease. So we stay in the same stitch instead of going to the next stitch. There we go. Okay. There we go. I guess I'm pulling it a little bit too tight if you hear that squeaky sound. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. There we go. So now we're going to have 30. But this one, we have to introduce our friend, the Krudel. There we go. I didn't bother weaving any of the ends inside this one because, like, the ends aren't going to get a lot of traction once they're stuffed. Maybe I should have, who knows. And then now it's 1 stitch in each of the 30 stitches for the next 2 rows. So I just get to go around and create this nice little look. There we go. This nice little look going. I think I'm just going to be continuing on this for a little while, right? Yeah. Pretty much I just continue on this little, like, shirt-like thing. It's like one of those weird patterns where you make the thing with the shirt built in, and then you put like another piece of clothing on top of it, and therefore the toy is never fully naked. Which I had a couple Barbies like that. I wasn't as crazy about those Barbies that had like a bikini always painted on, rather than just having a naked Barbie and putting clothes on top of it. It's like, why take away Barbie's right to be naked? Seriously. I used to have a really big Barbie collection. I had a Becky Barbie. Becky was in a wheelchair, but the wheelchair broke up, and therefore she remained like the only Barbie without heels. And then perhaps one of my favorite Barbies was the Rapunzel Barbie. Rapunzel's hair was as long as her body. And that was like super cool. I ended up like I ended up giving away the Barbies to like a family that had 3 girls, I want to say. But I kept one of the Barbies. I kept the very first Barbie that I ever had. It wasn't like my favorite Barbie, but it was the Barbie. I think she had ballet flat painted on her. She had like a ballet outfit. Most of my Barbies like fit into high heels, which probably had a lot to do with the fact that I loved drawing high heels. But the Becky Barbie had flat feet because you don't need to wear high heels when you're in a wheelchair. Nowadays, they have like the Move It Barbie, where it's like her elbows and knees are jointed, so you can actually put her in a bunch of like these cool poses. And I wish that Barbie existed when I was younger. That Barbie would have been a lot of fun. You could have done a lot more than just play dress up with her. There you go. So I'm going to continue creating more of like this shirt for Javier. You can kind of see like it's not as straight because I'm doing the spiral, but I'm too lazy to do it the actual proper way. And also this pattern never told me to do it spiral or do it in the rounds, but I suspect it would have told me to have done it in the rounds. But I'm going to continue Javier, and I'm going to check back in when I made a little bit more progress on the body. Or as Megan Thee Stallion would say, the body yaddy 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 yaddy. All right, so I have made progress. Kind of looks like he's Winnie the Poohing it. And there was an instruction in the middle of all of these that didn't make much sense to me. It was tejen tomando solo la hebra trasera, uno media punto en cada uno de los 40 medio puntos. And then the following instructions just had like uno medio punto en cada uno de los 40 medio puntos. So basically, it's like, why, if it had me change the color to brown and then it wants me to do one in all the 40 stitches, why is that direction separate from the rest of the other ones if they're the same effect? And then I realized, usually when you crochet, like if you see there's like the little like V shape there, when you crochet, usually you go under both. But sometimes the instruction will tell you to only go into one because they want a certain effect. They want like a hard line. And in this case, they wanted me to go back into this part to kind of create like a little ridge for the shirt. Because if you look at like when someone wears a shirt, I hope I can get it in here, there's like a hem. The shirt, like if I were to start putting my body in, it gives a more realistic thing of the shirt kind of is a little bit out instead of just going straight into my body, you know? So the designer wanted that for Javier. So I hope I got that right. Anyway, now I've hit the point where it's called patas, which I think are the legs. I think it wants me to start working on the legs now. So this is going to require more stitch markers, I believe. So it says, dividan el tejido marcando 4 puntos para el espacio central del ancho entre las pajas, 4 puntos para el espacio trasero y 16 puntos para cada extremidad. Acá es muy útil el marcador de puntos. So basically, it wants me to make sure that I mark off 4 stitches for the crotch and then 16 on each side, which should add up to 40. Right, 16 plus 16 is 32, plus 4 is 8. That's 40. Also, I found I was missing a stitch, so I added it at that point. Simple fix. It says it's very useful to mark them, which I was going to mark them with the stitch markers. Si las patas no quedarán bien alineadas con la cabeza, tejan o destejan algunos media puntos para llegar a la posición deseada. Basically, you can put them wherever you feel as long as they're in, so they line up with the head. Unión con uno medio punto el último punto para la pata en la parte trasera con el primer punto en la parte delantera. Este punto contará como el primero medio punto de la primera vuelta. Así los puntos para la primera pata estarán unidos para seguir tejando en vueltas. Continúen tejando. I don't understand all the words separately, but I think what they're saying is connect the first stitch of the last stitch with the first stitch of the other part, so that way you have the whole leg going in a full circle. So I gotta count. So that's like the head. Kind of, I know that the start isn't quite, as the hook falls out, I know the start isn't quite like symmetrical, so I can't exactly do that there. So we want, like, I think if we do it like that and then kind of count, we'll get things. Anyway, we'll get a different color stitch marker out. We'll go with pink. There are precisely 4 pink stitch markers, which will make my life easier. Okay. Mirrors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then if I go 7, 8, that should be the start of number 4. And if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that should also be the start of number 4. And then if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that is the 4th one. Yep. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that is the 4th one. And there are 4 in between there. And that ended up being easier than I was expecting it to be. So now, so what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be making one of the legs. And then when I'm finished with that leg, I'm going to be using the yarn to sew this part together before I start the next leg. Perfect. All right. I'm going to leave the blue one there for right now. And then I could probably just take 2 of these stitches out right away. Like 2 of these stitch markers out right away once I get the thing connected the way it should. So I'm going to stay with the medio punto. One, 2, and then instead of doing it in this stitch right here, I go across the way, haha, and I do the stitch here. And that is how Javier is going to get his legs. There we go. And now Javier is going to spend a good portion of his life upside down while his legs are facing upward towards me. And I'm going to go and crochet some of this back again. So I'll be back. All right, so I've done most of the leg for Javier here. And this is the point where it tells me to stuff it, which I'm realizing is the word releninen. And what's really weird about this is the leg isn't finished and it's telling me to stuff it now. I've got 2 vueltas left. And it's telling me to stuff it at this moment, like I'm not sure why, but we're going to trust the book and stuff it at this moment, and then we'll be able to finish the leg and start the second leg, which I think will be the end of the main part of Javier. I ended up taking 2 of the stitch markers out because I didn't need them anymore. I still need those 2 that are left, though. So we just take a lot of the stuffing, we put it in. Javier spends a little bit more time upside down. Although, maybe I shouldn't have gone along with the name Javier if my intention is to give this to somebody. Names are what you give to things you get attached to. I guess we're going to start with the torso and then stuff it and then like kind of stuff the leg the other way. I mean, this is a lot of stuffing, but I'll be able to fit it all into some part of it. Get rid of a lot of the parts that aren't like soft and fluffy, that are kind of hard. Kind of like that. Is that going to be enough? I hope I didn't lose that. Okay. That looks like it's going to be enough for the torso at the very least. I guess because they don't want you to kind of go in like that. Maybe I think it's going to be easier to stuff it in through the top and kind of like reach down. Don't want that stitch to come out. We're just going to pull that to be extra long to safeguard against any potential undoing. Guess we kind of just like stuff it down. At this point that got like halfway. Okay. I get stuffing in bulk now. At this point, I usually get like 10 pounds at a time, because even if it sits around for a while, eventually I will go through it all. I make a lot of stuffed animals, and the reason why my house isn't drowning in stuffed animals right now is because I give over half of them away. Yeah, whoever I end up with is just going to have to be okay with the fact that there are going to be a lot of inanimate objects staring at them. Because, I'm not going to stop making stuffed animals. That's just something that's going to keep on happening. Kind of knobbly. I know there are like people who get freaked out with dolls and horror movies, but fortunately I never saw any of them because I was freaked out by normal movies when I was younger. Probably why I take so much pride in watching movies now. I'm finally able to like separate some of that stuff. There we go. Maybe just a little bit more, but that could work. I think that will work for what we need to do. I can always stuff in more if I need it. And now it wants me to decrease. So we'll decrease 2 stitches, 1 decrease 4 times. All right. Then we decrease it. Yep. On Javier. Okay. No, I'm certain there was like a kid in one of my elementary school classes named Javier, but I can't remember the face. Like, there has to be one. The school I went to had a lot of immigrants, and I remember being jealous of the fact that they understood another language without even trying because their parents spoke to them in another language but English at home. So when I started like taking Spanish in high school, I was very, very excited to learn another language. That didn't stay for a variety of reasons, but I remember being very excited at the time when I started learning Spanish. All right, and then it wants me to decrease 6 times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I have an extra stitch in here. 6. Oh. It doesn't matter. We're going to make it work. So the next part says, corten dejando un hebra larga. I guess it's like a hebra is like length or like a thread. Para cerrar los últimos 6 puntos. Con la agua de tapicería, which is a tapestry needle. Pasen por el medio de cada punto y ajustan hasta cerrar el aguilicero, rim mountain. So what it wants me to do, it wants me to do the sneep, sneep, sneep. There we go. We're going to take out the stitch holder here. We're not going to need it anymore. We're just going to pull it through the stitch. Ooh. And now we're going to sew this and kind of just pull it tight and hoping that pulling it tight kind of closes it. So just go through the middle of every stitch, just kind of like that. Hope I went through every one. Now I pull it tight, not that there's much room to go, and then we seal it off. Just gonna have it go underneath here, make a little knot just to be safe, or like some sort of confusion contortion. And then we dive the needle deep in and have it pop out somewhere where it can't come out accidentally. And that is a leg. So now we're going to read the instructions for segunda pata. The comerón retomen en el 5 sin tejer de espada en la vuelta 47. So it looks like it wants me to sew it, but I think I'm going to crochet it because, or like I'm going to like chain it do like a slip thing because I think that's going to be easier to attach without worrying about it coming out. So, not that anyone's going to see this anyway because I'm going to be making a pair of overalls for this later. So, I'm going to like slide it in somehow. Well, first it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We know it's going to connect here. And we'll weave in the ends at some point in time. So now we're going to go to the second one. Hey, don't come out. You'll sneaky, sneaky, sneak. Okay. There's one. Now there's 2. It should be easy. I was just doing this downstairs with a different project. Ah! Javier is experiencing some tightness at the moment. Through. Maybe one at a time. There we go. Okay. Wait. Yeah, it's going to line up. Okay. Maybe one at a time. There we go. Oh no, it's not going to line up that way. Let's do this again. I think it's going to be easier if I just have one stitch marker in both. And it will hold it together better. There we go. Yeah. All right. We're going to behave now, Javier? All right. Maybe if I do it this way. Yeah, because now those line up. All right. Hey! I said behave. Thank you. I don't know why, but this weirdly feels like something that would happen in an episode of Farscape. It has the same irreverent feeling. Take the stitch marker out now. And now I got 16 stitches left. And I kind of just crochet in all of them. While hoping that this doesn't come out or let too much of the stuffing out. I'm probably going to leave the stitch marker in that stitch right there, so I know where the beginning of the row is. There you go. We have the crotch. So now I gotta reset my counter back to 47 because now I'm starting on row 47 all over again. which I left it at 74. If only I could just go like boop, boop, but that's not how numbers work on this thing. So I just got to change that. 4, and there you go. We're back to 47. Okay. And I got just as much to crochet all over again to make this equal. And I gotta weave this in some sort of knot, and to kind of like cover that little hole right there. And with that, well, I could probably just weave that in now, honestly. There we go. A little bit too short for a tapestry needle. I'm listening to Katy Perry, and now I'm going to have Katy Perry stuck in my head. All right. I'm going to have to use a crochet hook for that last bit, but that looks much better. Just going to put that in the thing so I don't lose it. Oh. As it falls on the floor. There we go. Other way. So I'm going to go and continue crocheting the second leg so Javier can walk around. And I'll be back. Javier's legs are done. So we now have the main part of the body. Everything else is just an add-on. And as a result, I think this is where I'm going to end this video. And I'm going to pick up next time on doing the other parts of Javier's body, or making the other parts of Javier's body, and then attaching them on. I'd say this is probably about the halfway point. So that is today's entertainment. Have a nice day.